Today we're making green chile and chicken enchiladas with homemade green chile salsa. Let's get cooking. We'll get started with our green chile sauce. For this we need just a few ingredients. Onion, here I've already got it diced, garlic already minced, and green chile, I've diced this as well, and this is from peppers that I roasted and peeled and put in the freezer in the fall. Of course you can use already frozen or canned green chile, whatever you can get your hands on. And then to make this into a sauce, we'll be using, I'm using some vegetable bouillon paste. You can use chicken or vegetable bouillon or broth. Since I'm using the bouillon, I will be adding water as well and using flour to thicken. And other than that, we're just going to need some oil in our pan. I've got this up to medium. We're going to put some olive oil in here. Let that heat up. And as it does, I'll give you a couple of notes. One, if you're using prepared enchilada sauce, skip to the part where we assemble the enchiladas. Two, you might notice this is going to be a lot of sauce. You definitely don't need this much to make a meal's worth of enchiladas, but we love this stuff. It is great with enchiladas. It is fantastic with hash browns and fried eggs for breakfast, on a pork taco, just with some pinto beans and cheese. This is good stuff. So when I make it, I make a whole bunch, and if it's too much, we can put it in the freezer. It freezes beautifully. All right, I think our oil is ready. We're gonna put onion in here. Let the onion cook until it is just starting to be translucent, and then we will be adding our garlic and follow that with the green chile. So in goes our onion. Now that our onion is translucent, we're going to add the garlic in. Cook this for another 30 seconds or so, giving it a few stirs. And adding a few shakes of salt. Depending on the saltiness of your stock or bouillon, you might want to add up to another, well, depends on your quantity, but you might want to add another half a teaspoon or so of salt as you go. Just taste and make sure you don't wind up with something too salty. You can always add it. Pretty tough to take it away. All right. Next, we're going to put in our green chile. I have almost 4 cups of this here, but again, I'm going to be making a lot of sauce, so you definitely don't need the quantities I'm using here, but you certainly can if you'd like. In that goes. We're going to give it a good stir, and we're going to let that cook for maybe another 3 or 4 minutes, just to let the flavors start to come together before we add our next ingredients. You might be able to hear the sounds of this chile kind of whistling and bubbling. It is time to add my bouillon. If you are using stock instead, wait. Don't add that quite yet. You'll skip ahead to the thickening. But if you're using bouillon cubes or paste like I'm doing, you can go ahead and add that in, and that'll add a good bit of our salt and just a little bit more flavor to round this out. I added about a teaspoon of that. I can always add a little bit more later if we want. But the green chile is really the star here. I'm gonna get that stirred in. And then I'm gonna add some flour. And we add that here just to kind of help the sauce to give it a little bit of body. You could do cornstarch instead if you want. You can do rice flour or chickpea flour if you want to keep this gluten-free. Definitely any of those thickeners will work just fine. So I added maybe a teaspoon or so of flour. I'm going to stir that in and let that flour cook for about a minute before we start gradually adding in some liquid. Now that our flour is cooked, I'm going to add some water to this. Again, if you are using broth or stock instead of the bouillon water combination, this is where you'll start to add that. I'm going to add maybe a half a cup at a time. Add and stir that in, and then we'll add a bit more and keep stirring. Basically, I'm going to do this until the sauce is as saucy as I want it to be. The other step I'll be taking, you notice that this is pretty chunky. We can keep it like that, or if you want a smoother sauce, and people in my household like sauces pretty smooth, you can at some point here put this into a blender. Or if you happen to have an immersion blender, and I do, this is a great time to use it because you don't have to transfer containers and wash the blender jar afterwards. So after I add, make a couple more additions of water, I'm going to go ahead and blend this sauce a little bit. So we'll check back when that's all done. Our sauce is finished. So you can see it's nice and smooth thanks to the immersion blender. It's thick enough, you can tell, to coat the spatula, but not too thick to call it a sauce. So we're going to ladle some of this into a bowl. And then we're going to get our enchiladas assembled. We'll add more as needed, but that should do for now. Move this one aside and start cooking enchiladas. So to do this, we're going to heat a little bit of oil in a pan, and we will be coating our, cooking our tortillas in the oil first, and then coating them in enchilada sauce and filling and rolling them. So the word enchilada literally means covered in chile. So, so an enchilada is a tortilla that is covered in chile and then rolled around a filling. All right, and you can use corn tortillas, you can use flour tortillas, whatever kind of tortilla you like is just fine. But like most traditional enchiladas, we'll actually be cooking these in a little bit of oil before we do the chile part. I'm filling these with shredded chicken. Pork is great in these. Pinto beans and green chile are a fantastic combination. You can do just cheese or whatever you'd like. We're simply filling these with some seasoned shredded chicken, and then topping with a little bit of queso fresco. You can assemble these and plate them right away, or you can put them in a shallow dish in the oven just to stay warm until everybody is ready to, oops, there's my oven ready, until everybody is ready to eat, and that's what I'll be doing. All right, let's get going here. Let's see if our oil is just hot enough. It might not be. No, we're going to wait for our oil to be hot enough, and we will get these going. All right, now our oil is hot enough. We're just going to toast these tortillas a little bit. We don't want them to be crispy because we're going to be rolling them. An alternative to rolled enchiladas are stacked enchiladas, which is something that's traditional in a lot of the southwestern US. So if you don't want to mess with rolling, or you wind up with tortillas that are a little crispy, no worries. Dip them in the sauce and then stack them. Okay, so think of like a stack of pancakes or something like that, a stack of crepes. a stack of enchiladas. So put your tortilla with chile on it, your fillings, and then the next tortilla. All right, but we're gonna just let these cook the tiniest bit. All right, on one side and then on the other. And we'll be ready with our next tortilla. All right, so our first tortilla is good. Again, we don't want it to be real toasty, still nice and flexible. We're going to put this into our bowl of salsa. Meantime, we are going to put the next tortilla in the pan. All right, and we are just quickly going to dip this guy on both sides. If it's real hot, you can use utensils or something like that. My fingers are kind of used to this. I'm gonna lay it into my dish here, and I'm going to fill that with some chicken. All right. I'd say about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of chicken per tortilla or per enchilada. All right. Also depends on the size of your tortillas. We are going to roll that and just nestle it into the corner of the pan here, or the dish, and we'll move on to our next one. All right, we have a dish of enchiladas, and as you can see, they're lightly coated with the salsa. They're coated on the inside and outside of the tortilla, of course. At this point, we can definitely put a little bit more of our green chile on top. All right, nothing wrong with putting sauce on top of your enchiladas, but to be truly an enchilada, the sauce is all over the tortilla. All right, we're going to put just a little bit more on here. Let's see, we'll spread that out so it's even. Going to give that a sprinkle of queso fresco. I'm going to set that in my warm oven just to stay nice and hot until it's time to serve. Our enchiladas are out of the oven and ready to serve. We hope you give these a try and you check back every Friday at 4 o'clock for a new recipe.